Greeting to you all. My name is Mahdi Omar and this is the African Television Network. Today we are looking at a very serious and ongoing challenge on our continent, the issue of xenophobia, or the targeting of foreign African nationals in South Africa. Over the last few years, and especially in recent months, we have seen a rise in anti-immigrant protest and violence in major cities like Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Durban. Grassroots groups and movements such as Operation Dodula and the March movement have openly campaigned to push foreign Africans out of the country. They often blame migrants for South Africa's high unemployment rate, a crime and a struggling public service. While the South African government condemns this violence, critics say not enough is being done to protect the vulnerable people. Is this a failure of governance, an economic breaking point, or a deeper fracturing of the Pan-African dream? Joining us tonight to unpack the root causes, the human impact, and the path forward are two prominent voices on African affairs: Nigerian filmmaker Rahman Oladekbelo and a senior budget and finance manager for Commonwealth, Ciro Inja. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for the privilege.
Yes. We have, of course, a lot of ground to cover tonight. But before we jump straight to the heart of the matter, Ciro, I will start with you. Having lived and studied in South Africa, you know for sure the country intimately. When you first arrived as a student in South Africa, how did that strike you? Were you met with the open arm, or did subtle signs suggest foreigners were not fully accepted in South Africa?
Oh, thank you for this wonderful question. Thank you to all the viewers of African Television Network of New England. And I would also greet the viewers from South Africa. I would say Sambonani, Dumelan, Kunjani, Legai, and I would say bonjour to all my African brothers who speak French. It is an honor to be in this wonderful show. When I went to South Africa in 2009, I mean, it was the best place I've ever been to. The people were very hospitable. The culture, the food. I lived in Pretoria. I was privileged to travel to Cape Town and to Johannesburg. And the people were very nice, very good, very welcoming to immigrants. And I loved the place.
Yeah.
And I must say that.
So you not only that you got your degree in South Africa, but you have a family.
Yes, I did, and my daughter was born in South Africa in
Really?
Pretoria, and
Yeah.
so she's a South African. So
Yeah,
it's an honor.
That's amazing. But just the follow-up question: if you were treated well when you arrived, how do you explain the violence we are seeing now? Why are we seeing a sudden increase in this anti-immigrant protest right now? What happened?
So this is, I must bring you back to history. This is not the first time that we are seeing this in South Africa. We had one in 2009. We've also had a series of such incidents thereafter, prior to what we are seeing today. When we look at it, let's look at it statistically. Today, as of the first quarter of 2026, according to Stat South Africa, the unemployment rate is 32.7%. When the unemployment rate is this high, according to the report, about 8-point-something million South Africans are jobless. So the government is using immigrants to derail the citizens from holding them accountable. When the unemployment rate becomes this high, citizens have to go after something. And I think the government, for some reasons, I don't know why, is telling them that immigrants are taking the jobs, which is not true. And as a result, citizens are going after innocent immigrants. And for the record, studies have shown that immigrants are not taking the jobs in South Africa. In fact, they are creating jobs. They are creating informal jobs that are recruiting or hiring South Africans. So they contribute to the employment rate of South Africa. So the problem that we are seeing in South Africa, as we're going to discuss throughout the night, is an economic crisis. And this is something that we are going to talk about as we go through the night. And there are reasons to back it. It's unfortunate that citizens are going after their fellow brothers, their fellow Africans, which to me, it's really sad, because then it tries to justify what Elon Musk said, white South Africans are not treated well in South Africa. And they use this to their advantage, because if South Africans can be treating their fellow Africans in this regard, then the question is, how do they treat their white counterparts, which is really sad. But we are going to talk about it as we go along.
Sure. Rahman, what do you think has changed over time in South Africa?
Thank you very much for having us, and I thank the viewers everywhere. The first thing that's something that's been prominent in my mind today was just that I would like to say is maybe it's a good opportunity to call on President Trump that what he talks about bringing in immigrants from South Africa, that he thinks that they are being treated badly. I think it's so clear now. These are the people being treated badly in South Africa. So he's got the wrong group. And I think he probably should shift his priority and look at the people that are really in trouble, that are being treated this way. So it's unfortunate that what we're having, and just like Shiro said, it has happened before. And from the time that a few years ago, we had something similar to that. And I can remember that what a lot of people were talking about was the idea of having South Africa being, being what South Africa has gone through in recent past, and the contributions of all African nations, even the African people in general, everyone who, whether they had something directly to contribute to be able to help South Africa to get out of this, indirectly. I remember there was a musician in Nigeria that we used to make a joke that whenever South Africa is free from apartheid, I don't know what music this guy will be playing, because every single album that he released was about South African apartheid. Yeah. So people are surprised that with all the love, all the support of solidarity, it's South Africa that's, South Africans that are now doing this to us.
Yeah,
and you wonder what kind of education do people have, available in South Africa regarding the entire situation? Because a lot of all these things, as we keep talking about it still boils down to education. People not knowing exactly what is going on, people not understanding how a country is run, to be able to know where the problem is and what to do about the problem, even if they are not, even if they are somehow helpless against the government. But you have people that you are living with, people who, all of them, they have something they are contributing to your society, and you wake up one day and you just want to murder them. It's quite unfortunate.
Yes. Thank you. Chiro, what is strange that many South Africans blame, of course, foreign national for stealing their jobs and fueling crime. What is amazing to me that why do these claims strike such a deep chord with the local youth? They actually believe it.
Yes, politicians have a way of, covering. When politicians don't deliver, they use an alternative way of covering their error. And when corruption is fueled, when service delivery is failing, you have to channel the energy somewhere. And this is what this is what is happening in South Africa. Because we expect the South African government to condemn this with the strongest voice possible. Because, we could talk about people being illegal in the society or whatever, but there are rules, there are laws. When we watch and see kids deprived of healthcare, education, this is a fundamental human right. All because either their dad or their mom is not a citizen of South Africa or is perceived illegal, that is a problem. Because even if one were to be illegal in the country, there are rules in terms of how to evict such a person. The rule does not grant vigilante groups the powers to arrest, insult, humiliate, and abuse people publicly. That is something that should be condemned at the highest level, and we are happy that we are here because I hope, like Raham said, President Trump is going to look at this and redirect his priorities, because what we are seeing today is something that not just the President of the United States, but the Secretary General of the United Nations should be condemning with the strongest voice.
Yeah, they have not yet, right?
That is the thing, and that is why we are here. We are here to educate our brothers and sisters in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and all over the world to point their attention to what is happening in South Africa, so that together we can talk about it. And I think South Africa has a lot to learn from the United States. In the United States today, President Trump, top on his agenda is migration, and he's addressing this issue head on. But in the United States, you don't find children being deprived of healthcare, hospitals. You don't find kids being pulled out of school. You don't find immigrants or people being insulted, assaulted, and their heads are broken and all whatnot. You don't find that.
Burn alive sometimes.
I'm telling you, their lives are at stake. And when you look at crime, the issue of crime, to your question, crime is everywhere, okay? And when you look at the statistics is wrong that immigrants are the ones that commit the highest amount of crime. No, it's the same thing we talked about in the United States. It was always blamed on immigrants, and that is not true. Yes, crime is everywhere. We always have good and bad people everywhere, in every society.
That's true.
Let's accept that. But we should not use that as a prerequisite to say everything bad is as a result. I lived in South Africa. I was an immigrant in South. I was there. And it doesn't mean I was bad. So for us to generalize and say immigrants are bad and say all these things that the citizens of South Africa, some of the citizens of South Africa, let me make that distinction, because they are good South Africans who are totally against this madness, which we need to condemn. And they say this is bad. So we need to understand that. And I also want to bring, I was watching the television the other day, 2 days ago, when 300 Ghanaian citizens were being lifted back to Ghana by the president. Thank you, His Excellency John, for this wonderful work. And they were being interviewed by SABC, and SABC said only 10 of them were probably legal in the country. We are not experts in the law, but there are requirements. If I go into a country with a visitor's visa, and I get into the country and I decide to file for asylum, or political reasons, or whatever the reasons are, and the Department of Home Affairs in South Africa grants me a temporary stay, be it for a month, renewable, and with orders that I can work and study, I'm not illegal in the country. This is something we need to distinguish. So most of these people were not illegal in South Africa. Yes, they might have been in there with a visitor's visa, but they have gone through the process of the Home Affairs, and they had all the requirements to stay, maybe on a month-to-month basis. So. And when a government decides and say, okay, I am not going to renew asylum applications any longer, you have to give these citizens a reasonable amount of time to depart the country. So you cannot say they were illegal. They're not. I just want to bring out these distinctions because I think the report on the South African side has just been skewed towards a certain direction that is not fair enough, especially as someone who had lived in the country.
Rahman, would you like to?
Yeah, I like what you laid down. But one thing we have to come to here is about the legality of the people. I don't think it's really that much an issue here, because when you are in any country, you're living, you're doing whatever you're doing, you don't know among the people that you see on the street who is legal or illegal. Mm-hmm. That is not something that we know by ourselves. You understand? It's the person that knows whatever the relationship with. So for these people to get up and start going after foreigners and saying Zimbabweans are the illegals and all the people they're attacking, it's not just they don't know who is legal or illegal. That's number one. Then number two, the motivation had nothing to do with legality. It had something to do with what we've been describing. It's xenophobia, and it's from this xenophobia they're now using something as an excuse, to do what they are doing. It had nothing to do with legality. That's number one. And with the government, it's the government that a lot is on the government to be able to come in and be able to provide security for the people. And that's not. We haven't seen any of that until you have 300 Ghanaians that were just airlifted, and Nigerians are there. They've been shouting for the president to come and help them as well. So within the country, a country should provide security for everyone within that country. And to come to the parallel with the United States, actually, what I was saying earlier was just a joke. More like a satire or something, because I am not holding my breath for President Trump to switch and think about all these people. No. He has his own priority, which are just the white South Africans. That's what he cares about, and that's to show. Is to show us something about the state of the world also, because you see, you have within this South African, these are the people that are being attacked, being killed. Sometimes some of them are right on the streets, stripped naked, and all of this. These are the people facing problems. The people that are living comfortably, that don't have any problem. Those are the people that our own president is seeing that, oh, these guys have a problem with that. So it tells you something about the world, I think, and I think we need to pay attention to that as well. And some of the things that have been bothering me about this is also that the fact that I look at it more also from the human angle. And it's not the first time that I'll see something similar happening in some other parts of Africa, though not exactly like this. Even in Ghana, a year or 2 years ago, there were some Nigerians, shop owners that were being threatened to leave. There's some other shop owners, they were threatening them to leave, and there were a lot of issues at the time. So we have that. However, one thing that came up at that time was the issue of in 1983, when we had a military government that took over in Nigeria. One of the first things that they did was to kick out all the Ghanaians. Wow. In Nigeria, and I was still a little kid going to elementary school and all of that. Many of my teachers, maybe like a third or so or less of them, were Ghanaians, and all of a sudden you just see everybody else disappeared. Wow. And Indians, by the way, not just Ghanaians, Indians, they were all just kicked out, right?
From Nigeria.
And you look at it. this is not something that Nigerians themselves were in support of. It was a military government that came and, they do whatever they want to do. And uprooting people who are living their lives and just like that, and especially because they were claiming that, yes, they were taking Nigerian jobs and things like that. That is one aspect that people need to understand. There were a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Ghanaians at the time who were doing all sorts of jobs within the society, jobs that Nigerians themselves will not do.
Yeah.
They were doing all these jobs, including one of the lowest one, like we call them sobata, that there will be guys walking on the street. They have a big bag going around and they can stop you on the road. You want something fixed with your shoes, with your bag, with everything. They will do everything. Nigerians have relied on them for all of these things. So all of a sudden, when you pull them out, thinking, oh, they're taking Nigerian jobs, they're taking when they were gone, there was no Nigerians to take the jobs.
You see, that's crazy. Yeah.
So these are things that you expect that, people would have been learning from.
Yeah.
And to be able to see that, when you were talking about people taking your jobs, it's not like that. And we're seeing similar things here as well right now with what's going on with the clamp down on immigration, which has been so heavy-handed and with little thinking behind it. A lot of the people who are doing the jobs that a lot of other people in America will not do, they are being kicked out of the country, and now the whole country is suffering for it. You didn't have this foresight to be able to see how a country is run, how all the different parts of a country is moving. And these are the things that when you are the leadership supposed to pay attention to and understand. So that brings everything back to the leadership of South Africa. What is going on?
Thank you. Thank you, Rahman. Chiro, as I said, you have lived in Pretoria, in South Africa. So would you like to say something about Operation Dodula and the March movement? These are brutal organizations who literally murder people on the street of Johannesburg.
Yes, you're correct. I mean, these organizations, they are saying foreigners, illegal immigrants are taking over their jobs. And their agenda is they gave an ultimatum that by June 4th of 2026, illegal immigrants should go back to their countries. And to Raham's point, when we look at the citizens giving ultimatums to citizens, a cause for concern, because South Africa is a country of rules and regulations. It's a country of law, strictly law, and South African law says if you're illegal in the country, it has instruments in place. For instance, the South African police services, the border controls, patrol, you have immigration enforcement officials that are supposed to, they do raids around, and if you like ICE in the United States, and if you are arrested, the rule says you have 48 hours to stand in front of a judge. And the law doesn't say you should be beaten. The law doesn't say you should be assaulted. The law doesn't say you should be deprived of health care or a child should be taken out of school. No. And in the case where what we are seeing there with these organizations is that I don't know if they've been given, I don't know, I'm still to see that from all the information out there, and Raham, correct me on this if I'm wrong, I haven't seen any law or any parliamentary order that gives these organizations, Dutula and March and March, the powers to arrest, to question people and ask them for, like Raham said, IDs on the street, and also to ask them, give them ultimatums to close down shops within 24 hours, some cases instantly. And not just closing down shops, they are beaten for having shops.
These are vigilantes.
Yes, these are vigilantes. Yeah. And the police, this is where we ask this question, yes. Have the government given them these rights? And this is what I would like to hear from them, because yes, you can talk. We can talk about illegal immigration and migrants and all of this good stuff. Yes, but South Africa still remains a country of law, and the system is very firm. The laws are clear, and we have to follow the laws. And I think this group is showing that either they are above the law, or I really don't understand, and I don't know. And I hope the South African government, and I know they are prepared to work on this and to address this issue head on, because I started seeing some serious communiques from the government stating that they are going to be out to make sure that come June 4th, these movements do not really harass these immigrants to that point. And then I must remind you, South Africa hosts the African Day. And all diplomats, all ambassadors in South Africa boycotted. They refused to attend the African Day. This was a few days ago. That is to tell you this.
You mean African diplomat or international?
African diplomat.
Yeah.
It's an African Day, so pretty much African diplomats. And this is to tell you the severity of how serious these governments are taking these issues, and how serious this issue is. And I'm also looking forward to see, hopefully, the Ghanaian president or maybe the Nigerian president would send it to the African Union to be a core agenda on the African Union, because this is a very serious issue that not only affects South Africa, but it's affecting the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that was just signed. Because when we see things like this, then the question is, what is the Africa Union Agenda 2063 when we talk about AFTAC? And then we are having these types of challenges that are really coming up. Is Africa ready for this drive? Is Africa ready for the development? Is Africa really ready to take off? Those are questions that we really need to answer, and this is the reason why we are watching very closely, and everyone is watching, especially within the African Union. Every country is watching, and we want to see how South Africa, under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa, would address this issue.
Rahman, what role are the South African police playing in responding to violence against foreign nationals? And are they doing enough to protect the innocent?
No, they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough at all. When it gets to a point where you see a country like Ghana sending an airplane to airlift the citizens, you know that they're not doing enough. It means they're not protected enough. You would have seen that from other countries. It's only the only reason you haven't seen it from other countries is simply because many of these countries, the leadership are, all southward, not forward-looking, and they are not coherent in order to be able to function properly within themselves, because corruption and all of the things that's going on. Because even in Nigeria, the issue of Nigeria, people are still asking the question, whether the president will send something to be able to help the Nigerians there. We haven't heard. Maybe now that we're talking, maybe it's happening, I don't know. But so far, we haven't heard that. So all of these people should be able to feel safe, at least with the police, the force that you have. And with the governments, yes, the government needs to do more, because the first thing, when the government does something, the direction that the government is going, at least you first see it within the government itself. So whatever you're hearing from some people within the government, but you are seeing something else on some other people, like there are areas, I forgot the name of this place, where the mayor themselves, the leaders among political leader, help also saying the same thing, following the same line, encouraging all these youths to do what they're doing. And I saw a video recently of the sports minister, sports and arts, the minister there, also saying the same thing, boosting these people to continue on what they're doing. So if you have these individuals, people like this within your government, and this is what they're doing, you want to see action even from that, and you want to see how much police force that you put on the streets to be able to protect the people in the country. So we are not seeing all of this, and that's a sad thing. We talk about Africa 2063. This is where are we prepared for it? That's a big question, because when we are talking of that, that will do by that time, all we want to achieve is a borderless Africa, so that people will be able to move around pretty much easy without you having to need a visa.
Yeah.
You understand? So if this is happening in South Africa right now, what's the prospect of that goal? You know, that a lot of people are questioning. I even heard some people who are angry or are saying that, you know, you have to exclude South Africa from when you talk of Africa in general. You exclude, you know, so people, you know, all of these things, everyone is looking at it. What's the feasibility of the goals that we set if these things is still going on? And in South Africa we are seeing, there are some other places where people need to really be well educated. That's some of the things, and I see this. I find I don't put so much blame on the people themselves who are going around, the vigilantes who call themselves forming a group. We know what's where the problem is. Thabo Mbeki also gave a speech a few days ago that talks about, you know, that they are all misguided, where they're looking that, yes, the high rate of unemployment and all of these things, these are situations that can really make people behave in all different kinds of ways that will be hard to predict. And that's where good leadership comes in, to be able to, but I wonder, what kind of good leadership do we want to have? What kind of education do you want to give these people when they don't have jobs? You know, when they can't take care of their families, they can, you know, so all of this, it makes it a bit complicated to deal with. But there are clear ways is there that a government should come in to be able to set clear boundaries and be able to help the people, everyone living within the borders of the nation. So no, the government is not doing enough, not at all. And yes, there are a lot of things that many of us need to also do, because getting online, I see now we have so many, the status of social media has kind of like, people will say that it democratizes a lot of things, including journalism. So you have all different kind of groups, individuals who have shows that they're putting online. And these shows are really having impact. So it's how to be able to find a way to coordinate and educate people more on what's important. And when we talk about unity of Africa, it's not just about for you to just hold flags or for you to just sit down in some Pan-African groups by name or anything. It's really to understand what it means to connect, you know. And sometimes I think about this, that if that is going on over there in Africa, we are just talking about what's going on in the United States, criticizing what the government's been doing and all of that. And now this is happening over there in Africa, you know. Yeah. But what's the difference?
Yeah, you know, let me play devil's advocate for the moment. Some people claim that immigrants are involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, treat locals poorly, and sometimes sell low quality or expired goods. How do you respond to this concern and the resentment behind them? And also, these are audacious and cocky. Sometimes they block the street, they drive BMW, they drive luxury cars, almost giving the finger to, excuse me for my language, for local people. Don't you think the South African have some kind of justification in being angry?
Before I answer that question, I would just add to just a little bit to what Raham said. You need to understand, when we look at South Africa, we must first of all understand the geopolitics of the 21st century. We have a world order where the United States currently, it's not doing trade the way it used to with Africa. And South Africa is highly affected. Keep in mind that South Africa is one of the highest producers of wine in the world. You have South Africa, the war in Iran. Not only has it driven gas price in the United States and all over the world up, South Africa took a very hard stand on that war, where it took Israel to court in the International Court of Justice, ICC, International Criminal Court. Yeah. And also you have repercussions of that. And then so what we expect from South Africa at this moment was South Africa to have a good relationship within Africa, because South Africa produces a lot and exports a lot. And with this current issue, if other African countries are to boycott South African products, the repercussion in South Africa is going to be significant. Yeah. Because every African country consumes wine from South Africa. That's a fact. And in South, you have MTN, you have South African Airways, which is, as currently till date, is still one of the major airways in Africa. And you have a lot of other businesses that is owned by South Africa that operates within Africa. Now, going back to your question, yes, I am not going to CTN and say, like I said initially, that crime is everywhere. We have good seed and we have bad seed. We have bad people everywhere. Even in the United States, we do. Yeah. So, yes, it would be normal to say some or one or two, not even illegal, even those that have papers might commit crime in any country. We had a latest case with the son of former President Robert Gabriel Mugabe of Zimbabwe, whose son was arrested in South Africa on an issue that is still in court. I think it's done now or not. So yes, we are going to have these issues, and that is where the South African government comes in. When someone commits a crime, that person needs to be arrested and prosecuted per the laws of South Africa. And if the repercussions, if the punishment is life imprisonment, then so be it. But then when you talk about selling low quality goods, you have to understand that South Africa, most of these goods sold in South Africa are imported from outside. And they pass through South Africa's border and control department. And if you read, there is an investigation going on in South Africa called the Malanga Commission, where one of the top generals of police is accusing a lot of people within the high ranks of government as being insiders in this dirty business. So the questions I would ask is, how does these goods get into South Africa? Because the people that work at this port of entry they're not foreigners, they're South Africans. So they let it in. How does drugs, same questions we've been asking in the United States, how does these drugs, fentanyl and all these things get into the United States? And this is where South African government, the leadership need to step up. Make sure these things are inspected. This is where they're supposed to catch this stuff. Yeah. Because I think if the government does a great job in that front, we will not have these things in the country. So this is not a South Africa's problem. This is a worldwide problem. Every country, a problem that even the United States is facing. Every country is facing the same problem. But South Africa can learn from. South Africa has very intelligent people. It's got very sophisticated systems. I think they just need people who are willing to serve. And they can learn from other countries how they manage this, because I think every country is a problem. It's a problem that every country in the world, from my understanding and knowledge, is facing. But how do we address it? And I would think my brother might add more on that.
I agree with you. And to respond to the question, actually, I think we've seen that before. And, in 2015, when someone came down the escalator, we're talking about, we've heard it before. They are drug lords, they are whatever coming into the country. So that's where you hear that when you see people who don't have a good enough understanding of the problem of a country, and when you have hate in your heart and you are not being able to understand. So those idea of people doing criminalities or so. Yes, within any population, you're going to find a small fraction of the people who will be doing crime. Even in a country where the economy is good and you don't have that high rate of unemployment, you still see crime. This is something that's part of human nature that we're dealing with. There are all different kinds of ways. So that is not an excuse. And given the examples what we've seen in the past, even some other of these all these other countries in Europe that all of them were talking about, the same thing, like the president that was just Viktor Orban. You heard a lot of things like that from him. And then, people who are channeling what we have our own president saying. So we've heard that before. It's not new, and we know how true that is. So putting that aside, yes, you may have among the immigrants, legal or illegal, and especially when people are illegal, the circumstance of people coming into a country because they're looking for a better life in any country, and for them not to have the opportunity to be integrated into the society, the kinds of things that they will be doing, of course, will not necessarily always be. So that's there. But in addition, going into
no justification.
There is no justification there.
That's good.
So, and in addition to what Mr. Shiro mentioned, the presidents, of South Africa, doing this, it's a huge disappointment, and how things affect one another. Something happening in one part of the world doesn't mean that it stays in that part of the world. It doesn't. Everything reverberates around the world, as we know now very well, especially concerning what's going on with Iran. So with the president of South Africa, it has been for a lot of people who have been looking at what's going on in Gaza, in Israel-Palestine issue. South African president has been like someone upright that everyone's been looking for. That you're taking the right step. What people want to be able to stand firm against injustice,
But in your own country.
There. But now in your own country, what's going on? So what kind of justification is he going to have pursuing Israel on what he has been very seriously doing before?
That's true. But, these migrants, whether small shop owners or laborers, are real people, not just statistics. They are our brothers and sisters, people we know, and I can only imagine how painful and traumatic this must have been for them. Can you put yourself in their shoes? Somebody coming with a knife or a fire to kill you.
To look at that is even so painful. But also, what is even more painful than that is the future, these kids. Because when people go to migrate to places, they find love, other things happen, and they have kids. And some of these atrocities are happening right in front. Like I said, I have a daughter who was born to a South African mom. Yeah. And for her to sit back and watch and feel like she doesn't belong, it's concerning. Yeah. It's heartbroken.
In Africa.
In where you think you belong. Yeah. And this is why we have to come up and speak about this, because what is happening in South Africa, the psychological, the traumatic effect is going to go a very long way, because these kids that have a parent that is non-South African, they would never, we need therapy. They need to go through serious therapeutic sessions to get over this thing, because they're traumatized. Yes. And this is the future of tomorrow. I even had a scenario in South Africa where a kid born of a Nigerian father, I think, a Nigerian parent and a South African parent. This kid is very good in soccer and was called up to play for the South African national team. Yeah. Because one of the parents is not a South African, people don't want him. Yeah. That is a problem. Why in France we have an African soccer team playing for France? Yeah. I think we need to start looking at these things. Yeah. We need to, and you hear people say they are worried because if they don't take back their country, kids of Nigerian or Cameroonian descent are going to take over the country. There's no such thing. Yeah. We have kids here in the United States who are born here. We come from Africa. These kids, America is their home. They have no other home. Yeah. President Obama his father was from Kenya. He has been the president of the United States. He lives in the United States. He served the United States. You don't expect him going back. Yes, he went to Kenya to visit, but he would never go back there. Yeah. So people should understand these things and how migration works. Yeah. And even if they have to do things, they should respect human life and put value to human life. That's true. You don't need to hurt them. Yeah. You don't need to beat them.
Kill them, actually.
You don't need to kill them. This is the questions that we really need to look at. What type of society, a future, are we living for our kids and the next generation? And it's very, very concerning.
Right. Rahman, how traumatic, how painful that experience must have been to.
Yeah.
It's you and me.
Yeah, the trauma is pretty intense, just like you described. It's very intense. But to add to that, when it comes to looking at the problem of trauma, we have to also understand these kids, and I'm not exonerating them, I'm not excusing what they're doing, to be honest. I mean, because yes, I put a lot of the blame on the leaders, the people with actual power that they're supposed to, because these kids, in the scheme of things, if the government stands up and really doing what they're supposed to do, what will they be able to achieve? But also, these are people who, it's not long ago that they were under apartheid.
Yeah.
Which is why, for me, I tend to, excuse me, I tend to always look at things from more the human angle, probably because of my personal experience in the way, everything, as you know, how I've come about and being everything just strictly, individual, human, about the human experience. So if we look at these people, it's not long ago, they were tightly under apartheid. And we can't really imagine that, we can't really imagine that it would just fly away just like that, because now South Africa, the apartheid is gone. The problem of South Africa, the trauma of all of these things is still there. Even I will venture to say what you're seeing is also coming partly out of the trauma of what they've been through. And since the time that apartheid collapsed, and you'll be able to have black Africans being in government and being able to, they haven't really seen anything so substantial that they can hold on to. So if we look at it, because a lot of people ask these questions, okay, if you're attacking all the black Africans that you have, what about the white Africans it's so clear that they've been oppressing you for so long? It's so clear to everyone that many of what all these people have, it's still in contention. And not to steer them towards that, of course, but it's just something to see that why are they, turning to people that look like them? All of these things, there's a deep psychological problems that the racism that all of these systems have unleashed in the world, they're still unfolding, and it's and the way we the hatred of ourselves, I don't want to use the word hatred really, but there is a dislike of ourselves that's somewhere within us.
Self-hate.
That rears its head once in a while like this. That is also something to think about, to address.
Thank you. We have less than 10 minutes, actually. Do you worry that people in other African countries might start retaliating against South African business operating in their border?
Well, I don't really think people will do that. When I was studying in South Africa, South Africans taught me one thing. They taught me the spirit of Ubuntu. There's this saying in South Africa, Omuntu, Ngumuntu, Ngabantu. And it says, let's live together. Let's be united. And I'm sure South Africans have not forgotten this wonderful saying. And I would also say, even as we touch or we look at the situation and we go of Operation Dutula and March go after women and children, they should also remember this famous saying in South Africa that says, Vatinta vafasi, vatinti mbokodo. It means if you strike a woman, you strike a rock. That is a famous saying in South Africa. I want to remind South Africans, they are good people. They should remember these famous sayings, words that they always say, and some of the words that I learned while I was there, and they should look at these people as very good people. And I also want to remind our African brothers that we've passed the stage of a tooth for a tat. I think South Africa, let's understand where South Africa is coming from, the pain that South Africa has been through, and let's address it on the diplomatic front, as many nations, Nigeria, Ghana, and many other African countries have been doing, and Botswana. Let's continue in that regard.
In Tanzania.
And Tanzania. Let's continue in that regard, and let's see how we can use diplomacy and other avenues to address this issue amicably, because South Africa would remain part of us. South Africa would remain a country that we love dearly, and we need to show South Africans, even here in the United States, statistics shows that more than 2 million South Africans live abroad, in Europe and the United States. Australia, Europe, and the United States, more than 2 million. And some of them have been here illegally, and they came here and their visas expired. But we understood that it was an economic problem, especially with the high unemployment rate of that South. So let's continue to live together. Let's use all avenues available to address the issues at hand. But we also personally ask the South African government to do more in job creation and addressing the issue.
Rahman, retaliation.
I doubt
it's possible.
that. I doubt that.
In short.
Because, these kinds of things, it comes from something so deep within, and in many of these other countries, you don't have any readiness that you see for them to be able to. So I doubt it. That doesn't mean that we may not see sprinkles of that here and there, but in general, like I said, online. I mean, I've been seeing these. For individuals, if I look at all the things that I've accessed online, maybe it's just like 5% that I would say is more into really angry, going back. And so in general, I doubt that you have that.
That's a good news. Probably this will be my last question. What political, economic, and social measures are needed to end violence in South Africa and promote lasting and durable peace in South Africa?
The government of South Africa needs to speak up. We've had scenarios like this. We had there was a protest in the gold mine in South Africa back then, and the government used the military to put a stop on it. So the government can do this. The government needs to be very firm on this and in preservation of human rights, based off the United Nations treaties and many, many treaties of which South Africa is a member of. They need to enforce that and use every apparatus of state, of government to make sure that this is taking place. In terms of other issues, once the violence is over, then the government can sit and address other issues. But the first thing is the protection of human right and dignity. And citizens or non-citizens, humans need to be provided access to healthcare. That is a fundamental human right that should not be deprived.
Sure.
So,
Rahman.
Yes, I agree completely with Mr. Chiro. That's exactly what we need to see. We need to see the government to move in, and two things. In a short run, the government needs to bring in the police, the soldiers, in order to really make sure that they protect people's lives and property, and in order to be able to give them confidence to stay in South Africa and not move out. So doing that for a short run is very, very crucial. And then on the long run, we have to think about education. When we talk about education, there's so many different forms that education is. It's not just when you go to university or anything that's what you get education. There are a lot of education to be able to live with one another. You can learn to be a computer genius at the university, but if you don't have the education to be able to live with the people that you are in your community, you're not you're not so much a human being. So I think we need to think about that for the long run as well.
Thank you very, very much for staying with us tonight. I am Mahdi Omar, and as we close this conversation, I want to remind us that behind every statistic, every headline, and every painful story in South Africa, there is a human being with a dream, a family, and a future. Let us choose compassion over hatred, unity over division, and hope over fear. Thank you for watching, and good night, and arrivederci.
نجوى الدعاء الأماني نداء لأليف ليس داني أم حنين ودعابة أم صلاة مستجابة أم حنين ودعابة أم صلاة مستجابة